with House Bill 30, which I think is pretty non-controversial. And then we may, if we have time, talk briefly about the Hathaway bill, but we're not going to take any action on it. Mostly the purpose of this meeting is to get 30 out and on the general file upstairs. Okay, it's 8 o'clock. Let's go ahead and get started. First bill for our consideration is House Bill number 30, the increasing the cash reserves. This was part of the recalibration bill last time, I think came on the House amendment. And it was part that was non-controversial. So we elected to put it and the recodification that went down so drastically for reasons I still don't understand. I think both the proponents and opponents of education funding thought it would help the other guy's cause. I think that's what happened to it. But this one, what it does is increases the cash reserves from 15 to 30%. It does provide explicitly they can't be used for construction, can be used for major maintenance. And it's designed to enable the districts to carry some of the, effectively carry some of the results of the federal money forward so that they've got a bit of a cushion as we go back to the structural deficit problems, if we do, given what's happened to oil prices. What's going on with it. So, anybody here want to testify on House Bill 30? Okay.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Senate Education Committee. I'm Ken DeCaria, representing the Wyoming School Boards Association, and we're in support of this piece of legislation. I mean, if you look at most accounting practices, people would recommend that you have more than 15% to carry over from year to year. And as you all know, it varies from district to district. Like if you're a recapture district, those cash flow problems can be problematic. This will allow for districts to have some more flexibility, and especially with the uncertainty and the flow from some of these federal funds coming in with the other funds, it will give them a chance to really sit down and look at and plan for the use of these funds. Some districts have done some of that now, Mr. Chairman. I know I was just looking with the chair of Laramie County 1, and they have a plan already, and it's on their website as far as they've already budgeted that federal money coming in, and they took public testimony to put that plan together about how they're going to use that money. So, I mean, some of that is there, but this will allow for flexibility for school districts to get through the next several years. There are some districts out there that, you know, would like to see that pull the sunset out and have this be ongoing. I realize how problematic that is. I mean, I think the good part of this all is we can see how it works, and that's a discussion that can be had at some future date if necessary. But Mr. Chairman, we're supportive, and thank you for your consideration of this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ken, the one concern I have, and I support the legislation, the concern I have is kind of a secondary concern. If we're, as a state, conceptually holding 30% of a total foundation program guarantee for a year, multiple mics on now, okay. If you aggregate across the state, then we're contemplating $500 million of total funds out there that are sitting probably in bank accounts, literally bank accounts, earning 0.1%, probably most of the time. I realize that there might be some better sophistication in other places, but to the extent that this is cash flow, in all likelihood, I'd be surprised if anyone were getting more than 2% off of whatever they've got this in. Do you think there's a wiser way for us to be holding this than in small bank accounts around the state so that we can be appropriately realizing the time value of this money instead of just the cash flow value of this money?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Rothfuss, I mean, legislature's done a lot of work, especially even this session, about looking at how to maximize money that's been held over time and held in some of these permanent funds. For example, I know that the House just talked about a couple of those bills yesterday, the House Joint 5 and House Joint 6, as far as trying to maximize that, that could be a strategy, I guess, going forward. I mean, for right now, and Mr. Chairman, some of this money, and Senator Rothfuss, they hold that money, but they don't always have that much money at any one given time, because at some point, they have to make payroll, like at the first of the summer. And so that money just gets them through some of the times where there's a downturn. And so, they're holding on to that money, but it's not like they have 30% from January 1 to December 31st for that year. They do utilize that money for other purposes.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you.
The Wyoming School Boards Association, Mr. Chairman. Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Anybody
Chairman,
else-
members of the committee.
Anybody else want to testify in this bill?
Senator Scott, you do have one person online with his hand up, and that
Okay. Wait a minute. Okay,
Good morning.
morning. Can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you just fine.
We can hear you. Can you identify yourself and then proceed?
So, Mr. Chairman Scott, and the Senate Ed Committee, I'm Shad Hamilton. I'm the president of the Wyoming Association of Secondary School Principals. And I've sent you some emails and stuff this year. I'll try to keep my testimony brief for you, but House Bill 30 here is probably one that our association is tracking and following the most. I'm not a financial expert or anything like that, so my testimony is not going to be good there, but I would like to provide you a perspective from the principals across the state of Wyoming that I work with and represent. It just in terms of general funding, SNARP funds have helped since I last testified in February, probably last year, about our funding situations, but they're not the end all solution. And I know you guys are debating a lot of other bills that would help us, but the overall picture, just with funding in general and the dilemmas that we're facing, have a lot to do with teacher recruitment, retainment, finding folks. If you're paying attention to national studies, I think NEA did a survey recently where 55% of their teachers are planning on leaving the profession in the next year, and that's a national study. We're seeing that in Wyoming. Teachers are really feeling a lot of pressure on a lot of different fronts Some of it related to COVID, others was related to politics. And you know, if you read the emails I send you, you'll kind of get a feel for what I'm talking about there. But what we really need, and this bill is an opportunity for you guys to do that, is a show of support for teachers, administrators, school staff, that, yeah, you know, we recognize funding situations kind of not stable right now, and we really want to support schools and local districts. They've kind of come up with this solution in terms of, okay, you know, let us deal with these funds, let us, you know, extend our savings so we can better utilize these and buy you a little bit more time so we can figure out a stable funding solution for Wyoming schools. And I just wanted to share with you too, because I think the same thing's happening this year. What happened last year at this same time, I was visiting with some new principals this year at our conference in January, and there was a district here in Uintah County, you know, new principal I visited with. He didn't get hired until almost June. And visiting with him, it's like, yeah, it's kind of late for a principal. Well, their superintendent was following the legislative sessions in February and March last year, and honestly didn't know if they would be able to hire a principal. Superintendent was gearing up to do both jobs. And this is a 3A school. This is not a tiny school. And that's not best practice at all. That puts a lot of, I mean, you know, to actually, you know, and schools across the state are doing this right now. They're holding off on hiring, even though our hiring pools are small, waiting to see how budgets are going to shake out, waiting to figure out, hey, am I going to have to spend this stuff super fast? You know, are we going to be able to use it over long-term type stuff? And you have teachers too out there listening to all of the debate and stuff on the various bills. And, you know, up to this point, a lot of that's stressing them out. There's not been a lot of really positive kind of support for education type stuff going on. And I'll just kind of wrap things up saying this bill is an opportunity for that. You know, passing this bill, recognizing that local school districts have a potential solution here, could be super important on that front. And if it's not the answer, then certainly, you know, kind of what the last testimony before me was talking about, some of those other bills out there looking at the ECA are going to be mighty important then. You guys have to do, I mean, we have to do something to show these teachers and our school staff that we care about them and that we want to support them with everything that's going on. So that's kind of my 2 cents. I sure appreciate your time listening to me. And if you got any questions for me, I'm open for those.
I'll make one comment on what you just said. I don't think there is any one thing that is the solution. I think this is a piece of it. In a way, we can carry forward some of the effect of some of the federal stimulus money rather than spend it on lesser important things. But it's not going to be, it's going to be helpful, but it's not going to be the solution. The whole school funding thing and school performance issues are so large and complex that I don't think we're going to see the solution to any of the problems we're dealing with. Certainly, we're putting a heavy emphasis here on early literacy and trying to improve that. And that's clearly not one where there is a single solution. That's one's going to take a whole lot of us working together to solve it. I would say the same applies to financial things.
This could be an important piece. You're absolutely right. I agree with that. But this could be an important piece.
Committee, anything else? Okay, thank you very much, sir. Appreciate your time.
Thank you too.
Anybody that's come in want to testify on this bill? Albert, did anything happen in the House on it? Was it at all controversial? Okay. Do I hear a motion? Motion is due pass. Any discussion? Senator Roberts.
Very briefly, I support the legislation. I think it's an important step at this point in time. The one thing I would say that I just think it's important to caution is that school districts should not be saving money from this year to fund the future, because the school model anticipates that you have the right amount of revenue and that you should be deploying that revenue for the education of the students now. That's how it's built. We have a special circumstance right now where there are different funds that are outside of the model. So this is appropriate right now, but I hope we don't think of it as, well, we need to fill up our 15% as soon as possible, and that any district would be taking from funds that came through the school funding model instead of deploying them to teach students this year. I hope that's not how this is interpreted. I think it's an appropriate step based on recent federal funds, but I hope it's not taken as a thrift account that leads to students this year not having the full availability of resources.
I hear that, but it also seems to me that we have gotten enough federal monies in enough of a hurry that carrying it forward to where we can expend it more rationally in the future and give us some protection if there's a collapse in the state's revenue. I don't look for immediately, but I think it's inevitable given the current run up in oil and gas prices. They aren't going to stay up there that long.
Mr. Chairman, I totally agree. And I think this is a luxury that we have due to the confluence of events. And I appreciate the legislation for that reason.
I would hope that it would be used so that some of the federal money that showed up in haste doesn't get wasted by being spent in haste. I agree. Any further discussion? Question being called for. Call the roll.
On House Bill 30, Senator Beitman. Senator Ellis. Senator Rothfuss. Senator Salazar. And Chairman Scott.
Aye.
On House Bill 30, 5 ayes do pass.
Okay, that takes care of that one. On Senate file, on House Bill 29, the Hathaway Scholarship Amendment. State Department of Education. On Monday, are you sufficiently expert in how this works that you can lead us through the intricacies of some of this? Or do we need to take precautions in getting somebody from the LSO that is expert in this here?
Mr. Chairman, Kari Akins, Wyoming Department of Education. Yes, I do believe I could lead this committee through the bill.
Okay, because there are some pretty technical complications here. And committee, one of the things I want to do on Monday is explore a bit. I'm not satisfied with what we came out of the joint interim on in terms of the increase in the spending for the scholarships, the size of the scholarships, and look for some of the solutions. And we will need to understand the intricacies of how it works from one formula to the next, and what we can do and what we can't.
Mr. Chairman, if you would be able to share some of your vague ideas on that, that might help us be better prepared to answer those
Well,
questions on Monday.
It seems to me that we're still tipping an excessive amount back into the corpus. And that has benefits and problems with it. I'm looking to get the funding up And one of the possibilities would be to try an appropriation out of the LISRA to get the funding up. Another possibility would be to reduce the amount being put back in to get the funding so that we could have a larger scholarship. So
Yes.
I want to look at a broad spectrum of ideas. I was quite disappointed in how far we were able to get during the year. And
Mr. Chairman, personnel from the treasurer's office might be more appropriate for answering those questions about how the investments may be affected in some of those tips, but we can make sure that we have those people present at that meeting.
Okay. Senator Office.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the treasurer's office, but it would also be useful if we want to have those conversations, get Mr. Wilmarth to show up to that meeting.
Yeah, that's probably a good.
Yeah, because he'll have a good sense of where things are at all
We'll
times.
do this first bill up Monday.
Okay.
And I expect we'll have a decent amount of time for committee meetings on Monday.
I agree.
So, and it is, at this point, it's the only bill we've got.
Oh,
So,
we can dig in. And
With-
Mr. Chairman, with that, I can also send a note to Matt asking him to draw up some charts that we've seen before, but at least for our consideration, so that we can see what it looks like based on projections at various, it sounds like you're contemplating, instead of it being a 5%, what it looks like if it's other percentages.
yeah,
And that's not hard for him to produce. Oh my gosh, look at how quickly we have the treasurer's office here.
yeah,
Holy cow.
yeah. Okay,
Who else can we conjure?
yeah. We just, you just got volunteered to help us understand this bill on Monday.
I logged in and so you guys talking. I sprinted from over there. Yeah, happy to talk to you guys. I didn't know if you wanted to.
We got surprised. I thought he was gonna go to 9 o'clock for us to come in. And he went to 8:30, so we're gonna have to quit at this point. But we are interested in exploring options whereby one way or another we can get the scholarship students are getting up a bit. Fair enough, committee, you have anything else you want the treasurer's office or the education department to be prepared on? Okay, Chris will take you up on.
Yeah, I'll talk to Matt.
Okay, very good. Committee,